Salutations, fellow nerds! I'm Rick Y, the Wise Guy, and today is December 27th, 2024. I woke up this morning to what appears to be some rather interesting MAGA infighting. Laura Loomer, who was removed from Trump's inner circle due to some rather salacious accusations, is now calling Elon Musk Donald Trump's side piece. And since this is all well before I've had my coffee, it's coming to my attention that we are probably going to have a very interesting few days. So if you like news, history, and general Americana, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Also, I'm going to make some quotes and do that word for word so that the meaning isn't really lost on anyone. If you're uncomfortable by certain terminologies and phrases, understand that it isn't my intention to upset you, and that I won't normally use some of the language that is used here in my regular speech. Trigger warning has been implemented. Vivek Ramaswamy recently got onto social media to explain how he sees American workers. He sees them as stupid and lazy. And what was the word he used for Christian nationalists? Oh yeah, mediocre. He went on to slam American pastimes and distractions like sitcoms from the 90s as a reason for having so many people who just can't work. Then Elon Musk came in to back up his little Doge buddy, and they seem to have the same conclusion, that Americans are just too dumb to be taught anything at all. So, all of a sudden, the two new members of Trump's government efficiency program are now calling to expand a program that allows workers from other countries to come in so as to improve the corporations that enriched themselves. Weird, right? Before even having taken the helm, though, it appears Donald Trump's allies are telling him that he is wrong about immigrants. I'm sure this was expected to go over better than it seems to legacy MAGA voters, because they're furious. Ever since actually going to sleep last night, some of the worst vitriol has been thrown around the MAGA sphere over everything that we spent the past couple of years warning you and them about. The I told you so FAFO era has officially begun, and the new president has yet to be inaugurated. This all seemingly began as Ramaswamy said, quote, "The reason top tech companies often hire firstborn and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for far too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zack and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel and Family Matters will not produce the best engineers." This is funny because I think that was the exact same time frame as when Vivek Ramaswamy went to high school. And keep in mind, none of this sounds like it came from a kid who was made fun of or beat up a lot and who tries desperately to learn every verse of Eminem's Lose Yourself to seem cooler. But he continued, "Fact, I know multiple sets of immigrant families in the 90s who have actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successfully STEM graduates. More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring and fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chillin', more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Most normal Americans' parents look skeptically at those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grew up aspiring to normalcy, normalcy is what you will achieve. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s or even now who raised their kids according to one model over the other. And be brutally honest, normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market or technical talent." All right. If somebody's asking you to close your eyes and imagine something, but they won't provide you any hard numbers, stop listening to them. And first of all, I knew plenty from both families. I knew brilliant kids who worked hard and came out of American homes, and I also knew children of immigrant parents who, to this day, have difficulty with both depression and anxiety because of unnecessary stress their parents put on them at a very young age, while also restricting activities that allowed them to explore themselves and their interests. If I recall correctly, this is actually the primary background point to a lot of movies where the parents have unrealistic goals of their children and it becomes a sticking point. I believe that what the entire movie of Elemental was about. Hell, I think even primary subplot of Turning Red was about that, if I recall. I would say that there is a very widely understood concept that parents of immigrant children do tend to be more strict, but that may actually be due to their conservative upbringing and not reflective of how to appropriately raise a child and build relationships. Nor does it dictate whether or not it's more successful as a parenting option. We've found more and more children who were allowed to express themselves as at a young age. They live happier lives as adults, and we certainly didn't have that information back when Saved by the Bell was regularly airing. This sincerely feels as though Vivek has some trauma that just needs to be cared for with a professional instead of projecting them all onto us. The second point. Doth mine ears deceive me? Is that a MAGA loyalist calling for the expansion of globalism? I dare say, Mr. Remy Swemmy, you're giving this little lefty tree hugger the vapors. All reality, though, Vivek Ramaswamy is now asking for the one thing that liberals and progressives have been trying to get through their heads for years, and he thinks he's going to do that by calling them all lazy and mediocre. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. This next bit of news might come as a shock, but the Nationalists, with American exceptionalism clouding their every thought, weren't super cool with this brazen attempt to show what I'm assuming is tough love. But it got worse as Elon Musk then backed up his little buddy because his firestorm continued far into the night. He claimed that the number of people who are super talented engineers and super motivated in the USA is far too low. To which I agree, and I've always kind of agreed with that. After World War II and the GI Bill, there was a huge turn for quality STEM educations, and from it, the United States became a powerhouse of both innovation and technology. The only time that it actually started to dissipate wasn't just the implementation of, we'll call them bread and sport, that is our culture, but a supreme lack of investment in the education sector. And that actually came from conservative ideals. But I also agree that getting talent from other countries as well is pivotal for our success as a country. We are an immigrant nation. It only stands to reason that we would invest in immigrants who would benefit the nation in the long run. Another Twitter user chimed in. There are over 330 million people in America. Surely there must be enough among them to build your ultimate team. And this is when the truth came out to set us free, because Muskrat immediately responded, quote, "Your understanding of the situation is upside down and backwards. Of course my companies and I would prefer to hire Americans, and we do, as that is much easier than going through the incredibly painful and slow work visa process. However, there is a dire shortage of extremely talented and motivated engineers in America. This is not about handing out opportunities from some magical hat. You don't get it. This is blindingly obvious when looking at NBA teams, as their physical differences are so obvious to see. However, the mental differences between humans are far bigger than the physical differences." Uh-oh! He then went on to say that if you needed school, you've lost already. That's right, the African billionaire tech bro is under the impression that he's far smarter than everyone else, and it had nothing to do with his inherent wealth that allowed him to succeed in life. But then it got super spicy when another user by the name of Autism Capital came into the conversation. Autism Capital tweeted, "So basically the right split into two factions. You got the tech right and the right. And the tech right is like, hey, we need H-1B visa people to do the jobs. And the right was like, no, you need to hire Americans. And the tech right is like, yeah, but you guys are retarded. And the right is like, well, you won't train us. And the tech right is like, you can't out-train being retarded. And all while this is going on, we learn some people really don't like Indians. To which Elon Musk himself personally took the time out of the day to respond, quote, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Yikes. So there you have it. The right of this country is starting to consume itself because the new officers for the made-up government agency are calling their base lazy and retarded, while simultaneously calling for expansions of immigrant worker visas so we can be more competitive in a global market. Then Laura Loomer jumped into this whole mess, and given my personal disdain for her, I don't really want to get into it. Suffice it to say that she was immediately shadow banned on the app that hails itself as the haven for free speech, after she shared opinions that disagreed with these two in a not-so subtle fashion. You know, the queen of subtlety, Laura Loomer. It appears as though the MAGA civil war has already begun. In full disclosure, I knew this would happen, but I had no idea it would be this soon. I am curious to see how Big Daddy Dingleberry's not only going to address this, but how the Senate and Congress might come at this too. Not only is his ghost president, Elon Musk, publicly calling for globalism, but he's also calling Americans retarded and lazy. And it's safe to say that the outcry from his base is, they're just going to love hearing these kind words, especially from an immigrant. I have no clue where this is going to go, but I can assure you that we have not yet heard the end of it. So, if you're interested in hearing more updates, make sure to, again, hit that like and subscribe button. If you want more up-to-date notifications, diddle that little notification bell. And also, do everything that you can to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay decent. Until next time. Y'all come back now. You hear?